Hey everyone, it's Bree here. Just popping in real quick before we start this episode. Alex does get very vulnerable in this episode. I know a lot of you guys are going to feel empathy towards the situation and want to find a way to help him, or maybe you have a solution, or your cousin tried this, or Uncle Dave tried this and it worked for them. Alex does have a doctor that he works with, and they have gone through options and potential solutions, and they work very closely together. So Alex is not looking for any advice on how to cure, heal, or solve his allergies. He has a doctor that he works with specifically for that. So just want to preface that before we jump into the episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, Alex really opens up in this episode, and it was awesome to hear him talk about his experiences and just hear him get really vulnerable. So hope you guys enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Bree.
And I'm Allergy Boy Alex.
And welcome to Thrive, the fitness podcast. I love that. That was good.
That. Yeah,
we should
topical.
Introduce ourselves with different titles just every time.
I agree.
What's going on?
Well, this
Allergy
one I
Boy.
felt like I had to say Allergy Boy because that was a nickname that I had a lot growing up,
Aww.
which honestly actually made me feel really bad. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But we'll get into the emotional part a little bit later maybe. But yeah, today we're doing the allergy podcast or the allergy episode, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So hi, I'm
Alex.
I have
really
food allergies and
Yeah, Alex really didn't think there'd be much interest in this podcast. And I kept pushing, I personally, honestly, selfishly, I really want to know more about it. And then we've talked about on the podcast a few times how maybe we'd do an episode. And then someone posted on his Q&A, dude, where's the allergy podcast? I was like, see, people are interested. And so that was the push that Alex needed to do this episode. And I'm really excited because I've always wanted to ask you personally a laundry list of questions. But
I
also
just text me or FaceTime me.
I know, but even one of my questions is, where did I put it? I go, do you get tired of people asking you about it? And I could have just asked you that, and you could be like, yeah, and then that would just shut down the conversation right there, and I would never have known. So selfishly, I think I pushed you towards a podcast because I'm like, it's for other people. It's not for me. It's for everyone else. So, but everyone's genuinely interested in it. So, do you have anything to say before we get into it?
I put in my story the other day that somebody said, why don't you talk about him more? And or something to that effect. And I said, for the same reason that Superman doesn't talk about his kryptonite. And it actually made me tear up when I wrote this on my Instagram story. It makes me feel weak. It makes me feel very weak. And somebody who, men are supposed to be strong. You know what I mean? And it's I can lift weight and, I can build a business and I can, it's all these ways I feel like emotionally I'm very strong and I'm very disciplined and tough, and those are traits that I value as a human being. Just resilience, knowing that some peanut dust could just take me out. It's that is the definition of kryptonite, and so I don't like feeling weak, and food allergies definitely make me feel very powerless in a way.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think the reason why you're so disciplined and so resilient is because you feel the weakness from the food allergy, or do you think that's just naturally you're just this way and food allergies just happens to be a part of your life?
For the better part of my life at this, I'm 28 years old, and for the better part of my life, I think most people would not have considered me disciplined. I was a very much if I don't, kind of skate by. I got my first C in 5th grade, and that shook me. And then I started hanging out with this crowd that was, it sounds like I'm going to say a really bad crowd. No, not at all. We were just really into video games and kind of blowing off homework and stuff like that. So I guess that's not the best necessarily crowd, but we were nerds that hated school, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my parents thought video games were literally rotting my brain. And so I kind of rebelled a lot because of that. And that made me less disciplined and more whatever and more, you know what I mean? And then 18, 19 years old, 17 or 18, I went to college and I was I want to change who I am. I'm sick of being this skinny kid who isn't sticking to commitments. And I just, I often say that discipline is like a muscle. From the age of 17 and on, I think it was I just switched. I just told myself I had to change. And now I think most people would, both externally and definitely internally, the people close to me know that I'm one of the most disciplined and I hate saying like hardworking or disciplined because it makes me sound very egotistical, but just I don't allow myself to quit under any
Yeah.
circumstance.
I don't
And
think
I
it's you're
know that
egotistical. I just think you have an undying belief in yourself. Is that the right way to?
unrelenting,
Yeah, unrelenting.
unrelenting belief in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and I was saying this the other day, like it is borderline lunacy how much I believe in myself. And I just don't like when people put ceilings on me. Obviously, this isn't super about, but I don't think it was because of my food allergies, because
Yeah.
that was just,
Just always been a part.
not always. I
Well,
had
I
to
guess we'll
make
dive
the
into that.
conscious effort to become a more disciplined person. And it's
Yeah.
like a muscle that you build.
Yeah.
You exercise restraint, you exercise discipline, and it just becomes a core component of who you are over time.
Yeah. Well, that kind of helps us transition into, I think, the first question I want to ask you about your allergies is, have you had these allergies since you were born? Give us a little like background on like when it started and I don't know, the journey that you've been on that is
Yeah.
your life.
So, as far as I know, basically, yeah, I don't remember if I was like 1 or 2 years old, but there's this photo of me like floating around, like whether it's my mom's house or like maybe it might be on my phone. I don't think it's on my phone at this point actually, but there's this like old, you know, uh, like laminated photo of me, that I'm eating peanut butter. And I guess like the story is that like that was my first time eating peanut butter or something like that. And my parents gave it to me. I was in like the high chair, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm eating it and I start crying and like they said I was like making funny faces.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess I was dying, Um and I guess my face like started going blue.
Yeah.
Um
Rush to the hospital,
and
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know exactly what happened, but like, it like pains me to think of like little Alex, Like I think
Yeah.
of him almost as like a different person than who I am today.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess that was my first little mix up, and then like I got an allergist named Dr. Smith, and
You
he
were how
actually
old with that
became
picture? How old were you with that picture you were saying?
two or
Two or
three,
three?
two or
Okay.
3 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and then school. I didn't realize this. I knew this was going to be an emotional episode.
Aw.
Damn it.
Aw.
But school is really hard for me.
Yeah.
School is very, very difficult for me. They had to put this like bracelet on me that said like I have severe food allergies. And I was like taught to like show this to anybody in case something happened. My mom was so scared. Like in preschool, I wouldn't do a full day. And then like kindergarten, I would do like a half day
Right.
because she didn't want me to be there at lunch. But my mom and dad are also like 40, 60 hour a week business people. Like they own their own business and they have to work. Especially back then, they had to work every day around the clock. So like taking care of us wasn't, I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but it wasn't really an option.
Yeah.
They hired a babysitter to take care of us when they weren't able to be there. But I was, yeah. And then I don't know, just like stuff would happen. Like there was one time there was an incident where a kid chased me around with a peanut butter sandwich.
That's
Um,
terrible.
yeah, it was just like a whole,
Kids
you know,
being mean.
yeah. They don't understand it though. They're just kids.
Yeah, but it still doesn't make it not mean and terrible. You know what I mean?
So after like, school and all that, like school was always tough. I was definitely bullied a little bit. And that made me like definitely an outcast. And I was like so skinny and small and frail because I just like wasn't eating as much as anybody else.
Right.
Um, Definitely some generally, I would say, deep seated fears around food. Like I don't go to, and I know we'll probably talk about this later, but like I don't really go out to eat. I go out to eat as little as possible because I have extreme anxiety around food.
Yeah.
Um,
Understandably.
yeah. And I guess like if I'm trying to like give you my story after like being born, it's like
Well,
I don't really know.
yeah, I guess. Well, I would ask you next is like, okay, so it started with peanut butter, and then do you just get more allergies as you got older? Or was it just like the peanut
Yeah.
butter set it off, and then you're discovering allergies every other day? Like, how did that build?
Yeah.
Because we'll
Yeah.
talk about it, but you have a very long list of allergies.
Yeah, maybe like 60 to 100 food allergies that like I
Yeah.
know of, and probably maybe a little bit more than that, but I know there's at least like 70 or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like I think it went like peanuts, and then or like peanut butter, well, peanuts as a whole, and then it went into. I guess I probably got allergy tested, I would assume, and they found out I was allergic to all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they found out I was allergic to was eggs, and not just eggs, but chicken as well. So I couldn't have the chicken or the egg. And so it was like, I think I was like 11 years old before I actually had a birthday cake or a cookie, like for my birthday.
Yeah, wow.
And so, yeah, I just couldn't have eggs. And then like around like 11 or 12 or something, I could finally have eggs if they were like cooked, but not raw eggs.
So
Still couldn't
it
have chicken at
developed
that
and then
time.
it changed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
actually how a lot of my food allergies kind of have gone, is like they either weren't there and then they pop up, or maybe they were there, they pop up, they go away, I get better, and then like they come back. So like chicken is one that from the ages of like, however young, 3 or whatever, 0,
Yeah.
I guess. I couldn't have chicken until or even an egg or even a cooked egg until like 11. Then I could have cooked egg. Then I think it was 16 years old, either 15 or 16 years old, I could finally have chicken. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
my mind was like blown,
Blown.
because
I
we went
bet.
to the first thing I had that was chicken was McDonald's chicken nuggets. I never had chicken nuggets. I really wanted to eat chicken nuggets. Oh,
Oh,
those were fire. So I
I
ate
bet.
so many chicken nuggets for the first like 2 weeks that
Yeah.
allergy came back. Like, I mean, immediately, like it
And
came back.
you would think that you eating so much would like
Build like a
make
tolerance,
build
kind
a
of.
tolerance, but it almost
Mhm.
did the opposite for you. So that's very
Yeah. And
interesting.
I also want to plug here. I should have said this at the beginning of the episode, that like I am not an expert on allergies. This is not something I've studied.
Yeah.
These are just my personal experiences. I definitely don't recommend trying to follow in my footsteps for anything that I say here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could have chicken, and then I couldn't have chicken, and then I could have chicken again. And there was a point from like 18 until about 25 where I was eating chicken pretty regularly. Around 25, I think this was in 2020,
Yeah.
I started noticing like we would eat chicken sometimes and my lips would start like bubbling up, my throat would get a little tight. And I was like, what?
Mm,
Maybe there's like
yeah.
some seasoning that we're using, or the thing about a lot of ingredient labels on different things is it'll say spices, and those companies don't have to disclose what spices there are. And I'm
Yeah.
allergic to like onion. I'm allergic to like, these different things that
Right.
um I didn't know if like, okay, well maybe it's just that, or is it the chicken? And after a while we started like figuring out like, okay, it's happening every time I'm eating chicken again. And so for the
Right.
last 3 years I haven't been able to eat chicken again, which has been kind of a bummer.
Ugh. But you can eat eggs because I feel like I've seen you with breakfast tacos,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I can still eat eggs. Yep. I
Okay.
can still eat eggs. I can still eat hard boiled eggs, egg whites, scrambled eggs. Like any of that is totally good. And chicken, it might be good again, but honestly, it's just like,
Not worth the
it's just
risk.
such a buzzkill having
Yeah.
to. Chicken's one of those that's not that bad, to be honest. It's like throat gets a little tight, lips bubble up, and if it's like real bad, I'll take a Benadryl and I'll be knocked out for the next, like basically 24 hours. I'll be
Yes.
really drowsy
Yeah.
and sleeping for the most of it. And I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel, like Benadryl, so I don't
Yep.
love taking it unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
What would you say is like
Where do we go from
maybe
here?
well, no, that's what I'm transitioning into is what would you say as far as there's two ways you can look at this question. I was going to ask you like what's the worst allergy as far as maybe one could be reaction if you want to go into that one, or as far as navigating food, you're like, I know you're not allergic to milk, but you could be like, oh, milk is the worst because milk is in
Yeah.
this and that. Like, is there one specific allergy that you're like, this one is the worst to navigate because it's freaking in everything?
Man, tough to say. I would say walnuts are the worst in terms of like what'll kill me the fastest.
Oh wow.
Walnuts are very, very bad. And one time I actually had an interaction with walnuts. We were watching like a James Bond movie in my parents' house, and like me and my oldest sister were watching it,
Yeah.
and maybe like maybe my brother or my other sister too. But anyway, so we're watching James Bond. Don't remember how old I was. Let's say I was like 11 or something, maybe 12. And my sister, so we're in the basement. My sister was drinking out of this like clear white plastic cup of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I never drink out of other people's water cups
Right.
because of food allergies. Ever, 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 under any circumstance, it'd just be so stupid.
Right.
What a dumb risk to take. But I was thirsty. She ate the same dinner I did. I was like, it was fine. I'll just take a little sip. oh man, I started within like 30 seconds. I started like feeling like not good, like almost like a red alert going on in your
Something
body,
was
but you can't tell
off.
what's going on, like a spider, like Spidey sense from Spider
Yeah,
Man.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Spidey senses. Yeah,
zing, like all of a sudden, like something's not right, like adrenaline starts surging, and
yeah,
the horrible thing about this is this has happened to me so many times now where I could swallow something wrong. I could be getting sick. I could just be getting like a cold, but I start to have like a borderline panic attack, and I have had full blown
yeah,
panic attacks because I'm worried that, and sometimes these sensations become real for me,
yeah,
like my
yeah.
heart starts racing, my chest starts getting tight, my throat almost starts closing, and I have to
Right.
think like, what did I eat? What did I come in contact with? Did I touch like a counter or something
Yeah.
where somebody else maybe, and then I like touch my lip or something like that? Like, all these thoughts start racing through your head.
Right.
But anyways, backtrack to that basement. So I take a sip of that water cup and I start noticing that. And what I can describe the feeling as of your throat closing is, I know you would imagine it as like, okay, throat just like getting a little more constricted, right? What
Yeah.
it actually feels like, or what it felt like to me in that time, was that there was a paper ball inside of my throat
Mm.
that was lodged and stuck, and it was growing. It was
Yeah.
such a it was such like a scratchy, and you feel trapped, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. And so I noticed something was wrong right away. We go upstairs. I'm like sitting on the counter. People are surrounding me. I didn't know it was a food allergy, and then like quickly we realized like it must have been. There
Right.
as like, what did I do? I said I took a sip out of Jen's cup. That's all I've done. And
Yeah.
Jen was like, all I did was I ate. She said I ate some toffee, and she felt horrible because the toffee contained walnuts.
Oh. And you didn't see her eat the toffee, so you're like, she had the same dinner I did,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, so I had two Benadryl. They kept an eye on me. I didn't take the EpiPen. I should have. I should have taken the EpiPen and gone to the emergency room.
Yeah.
But my parents, unfortunately, were not really big on medicine growing up,
Yeah.
and I'd say they still aren't. And
Yeah.
so that, it made things a little bit more difficult maybe than they should have been for me, because I didn't even
I
have a primary care physician. It was just my allergist
mm,
for the first like 20 until adulthood for myself. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. I don't actually don't know the difference in this. Are you able to take two Benadryl and then use an EpiPen if you needed to? Or if you take the Benadryl, you cannot use the EpiPen? Do you know?
No. And so I don't want to say,
Okay.
just in case, but I'm gonna say it's totally fine to do that, but like with like I don't know. To be
Yeah,
honest, I don't
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, and I would think because obviously
My
when you use the EpiPen, you have to go to the emergency room. And so my thought is
Yeah,
like, if you
yeah.
did use both, you're already to the emergency room anyways. Like, what's the other option? Like, you might as well, if the Benadryl's not working, you got to try something else. So, but I
I've
don't
always
know.
been a little bit scared to take the EpiPen because it's like, it's
It is
epinephrine. It's
scary.
going to like increase your heart rate a ton. I
Yeah.
have had some heart issues that I don't even think I've ever told you about. I'm
No.
fine. I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
There was like a time where like I had to have like these wires hooked up to me and walk around with this like thing for a while. And
Right.
there was this time that they did some stuff and they were like, there's a hole in your heart. And I made the joke, isn't there supposed to be a couple? And
They're like,
like this time, like 5, 6 years ago, I don't know, that like I was hospitalized for a few nights because there was like something wrong with me. They were like, there's a hole in your heart. There's pooling blood around your liver. There's this. I ended up being fine. It was just like a few times in and out of the hospital, a few overnight stays. It's all good though. It's all good.
okay. Okay. I'm glad it's all good. But it's
Yeah.
also scary. Like those things are, if you've never seen what an EpiPen looks like, first of all, Google it. They're like massive and they look really scary. And then I don't think a lot of people know that if you have an EpiPen, you have to go to the ER after having the
Yeah.
EpiPen. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think you just shoot it in your leg and you're done and you move on with your life. It's like, no, 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 no. You're like, do I want to have to go to the ER? And I mean, again, when it's
Mm-hmm.
a life or death situation, you're like, I'm going to choose life and go to the ER.
I don't
But
know,
it's
man.
one of those,
Sometimes in America, because of the price that comes along with it, it's like
yeah,
I one
yeah,
time. Okay, so here's how I figured out that I'm allergic to onion, raw
okay,
onion, and I haven't
yeah,
had onion since because I'm so scared of this happening again.
yeah,
So I was eating like Subway or something. Well, the first time I noticed this, I was eating Qdoba, and Qdoba, they do like the raw red onion. If you can
right,
ask for it, you don't have to get that.
yeah,
But I was getting raw red onion because I like onion. I was eating it, and I noticed like some stabbing pain in my in my spine.
Huh.
Now this is something that like it was almost like electricity, like shocking my spine. A
Yeah.
sensation that I've never experienced before. Usually when I get allergies, throat closes, paper ball kind of thing. If it's really bad,
Yeah, your
lips bubble
lips.
up,
Yeah.
hives, yeah, stuff like that. Like this one was unlike anything else. It
Hmm.
was shocking me across my spine and like needles being jammed into my spine, and it was such an uncomfortable feeling. So, anyways, I had to go to the hospital or Med Express or whatever. It was like $1,100 that I
Yeah.
had to pay for
Yeah.
this. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I just spent $1,000, which was at the time all the money I had in my bank account,
Yeah.
on a Qdoba bowl. So it's like, why should I eat out anymore if there's a risk that I'm going to have to
Yeah.
pay $1,000? Back
Well,
then
and like you
that
said,
was totally
being
wiping me out.
yeah, like I said, being here in the States, like, for people listening who aren't in the States, like if you if you get a car accident and you go to the ER, you're footed with a bill later. And I know that's very like,
Yep.
I, I've talked with a lot of people who don't live in the States. And like, it's just mind blowing to them that we have to pay to
Yeah.
have a child or pay to go to the ER for a car accident or like EpiPens. You have to pay for your own EpiPens. Like a lot of people are like, oh, when I
Hmm.
need them, I just go grab them. And EpiPens,
Yeah.
I think
No.
with insurance, they're like $700 plus. Like they're still not cheap even with insurance. I don't know if you know if that's
I
correct or
got
not, but
I
that's my
So
understanding.
adult purchase in preparation for the Europe trip that didn't end up happening because
Oh
reasons.
yeah, yeah,
But I actually bought my first EpiPens as an adult. For a long time, I was going without them because I hate to say this, I could not afford them
yeah, yeah,
personally, and I guess I probably could have asked my parents to help me out with that. But like when you're over 21 years old and you're not living at home anymore, it's like I don't want to ask my parents for money to be able to afford medicine. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So I just went without him for a long time and just hoped for the best. And it's like you have to replace him every single year, and so
That's a
that's
lot of the thing
frustrating.
people don't know about is like you spend a
Yeah.
thousand dollars on an EpiPen that you may or may not use, and then if you don't use it in a year, you have to spend another $1,000 on another EpiPen, and God forbid you use it in that year that you can, and then you have to buy another one for $1,000. So hopefully you have 2+ grand to dump on this kind of stuff if you're in the States. So I think that's the
Now,
thing people don't know.
good R- good RX is like the place that I have been going to
Getting them,
now.
yeah.
Yes, and it's really, really, really good. It's like $100 or $200 for
Oh,
like
that's
a
awesome.
double pack, which is so much better. I mean, it's crazy that
So
it
much
sounds
better.
like that's a great price for comparatively, you know.
Yeah, because it used to be
Yeah,
more than
good
that.
RX is, and I think Mark
Merc
Cuban has Cost
Cubans.
Plus Drugs. Yeah, Cost
Yeah.
Plus Drugs, I think is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
very more accessible than they used to be because I've
yeah.
known a handful of people and they're like, "Oh yeah, Brie, like with my insurance, I'm paying $700 for each one of these." I'm just like,
Hmm.
"Oh my gosh." And that's if you have
Yeah,
insurance. So,
it's brutal.
that's what would if you're cool at diving into it. I don't want to bring up a crazy traumatic experience, but
No,
do you
let's
have
do it.
like do you have like a
I
2 day
know.
like
Yes,
just
yes, I do. I do.
okay, you already knew I was okay. What's your
You're saying
worst
like the
episode?
worst one?
The one that
Yeah.
you're just like, it was the worst one to date that you've experienced. If you're
Definitely
cool
thought I was
diving
gonna
into
die.
it.
It's cool. Um, we might have to take a break because one, I have to pee, and two, I'll probably start crying.
Well,
So,
okay, but Alex, you realize you don't have to dive into this if it's really going to hash up some
no, no,
stuff.
it's fine. It's just like it sucked, it sucks. It sucks
Okay.
knowing that you're gonna die.
Yeah.
That is something that I think most people will never have to come face to face with death.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that is
Like
something
you
that kind
do.
of changes you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, to a degree, there's like death always around me. There's like, oh,
Well,
walnut.
well, I'm speaking more of
All right.
like if you get cancer and you have a year to live, that's way different than you eat something. You're like, I
Yeah.
have 30 seconds. Like
Yeah.
I have a minute. Like that's a totally different experience than anything else that most people experience in their life. So,
Yeah. So I was at work. This heart stuff was kind of going on with like the weird, heart stuff. And I was at a family fun center. That's where I worked at. I worked at a family fun center for 6 years. I was a manager for four of those. And I was out at the roller coaster and just, hanging out with one of my coworkers or buddies. And all of a sudden I started like, we walked in and I started not feeling good. My chest is getting really tight. I'm like, damn, something's not right. Like, it's getting hard to breathe. And I'm like, so I was in a CPR class at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I'm having a fucking heart attack right now.
Mm.
That is the symptoms. My
Yeah.
chest is feeling very tight. I'm getting a little dizzy. I'm, kind of struggling to get air. And I realize I'm like having a heart attack right now. And I told people I have to go right now. I'm sorry. So I drive the speed limit or a little bit over home, which was 10 minutes home, because
Yeah.
again, I think I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I called my mom. I told her, like, I think I'm dying, Mom. And I got home. She had already called. Well, I came home and I collapsed.
It's okay. Take your time.
And I was writing down instructions. I got up. I was writing down instructions for my dad to give me CPR because I thought my heart was going to stop soon. I didn't know it was an allergy at this point. And my dad doesn't know how to do CPR. But I was writing down instructions. I said, in a second, I'm probably going to go out again. So my mom's calling 911. She says, my son's having a heart attack. In walks an EMT, two of them. One of them is one of my best friends, actually. His face just was like white as a ghost. I said, hey, Trey. He said, how you feeling? And he was immediately so professional, as if like he didn't even know me,
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm all good now. We go to the hospital, and somebody's asking me like what happened, and they put me on adrenaline, and it hurt like a motherfucker. And they put me on adrenaline. They put me on morphine or some kind of painkiller. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then somebody rolls up my back, and I have this photo, and my whole back is just covered in like this blotchy red and white in a way that it probably shouldn't be. It looked pretty bad. Yeah. And then I was, I think, 22 when that happened.
Wow.
That was tough. Yeah, and I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
So I don't like going out to eat much.
Understandable.
So that's tough. It's like recounting that. Why should that hurt still? Because I've made it through it. Why should that be so scary to me now? So it turns out what happened, and I didn't know this until about a week later. There was a coworker of mine, that the guy out at the roller coaster.
Uh-huh.
We were drinking out of similar water cups. He was eating peanut M&Ms.
The damn water cups.
That was it. The damn water cups.
Damn
twice.
Water cups. Oh.
Yeah. So that one was pretty bad
tough.
because facing death in that way is something that I hope until it really is time, I hope I never have to face again.
Yeah.
And I hope next time I do face it that it's quicker. Because it's a whole lot of fear that you have to go through.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I know it wasn't easy to go through and rehash and all that. And we're going to take a quick break. There's no ad we have to put in here. So it'll be like 5 seconds for you guys. We're going to take a quick break, let Alex pee, gather himself, and then we'll get back into all the allergy stuff.
All right, let's get back into it.
You better? You okay? How's your pee?
I just had to pee so bad. That's all. It was causing me physical discomfort. Yeah, that's the only thing.
That's rough. Okay.
What a transition for back to right back into it.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. The questions are going to get easier now from here. We're through the
Yeah,
rough part.
that was the
That was the
toughest
hard
one.
one.
That was the toughest one. Maybe we should have saved that one for last.
Is it? No, because we got to end on a light note. You know what I mean? We can't end on
That's
you
really
pee
fair.
really bad
Very.
and crying at the same time. So um,
Tough.
okay. So my next question, and this could technically be the last question, but I do want to ask: Do you get tired of people asking you about your allergies? Is that frustrating for people to constantly ask?
No, that doesn't it doesn't negatively affect me in any way. I think
Okay.
I got a message yesterday. I haven't even opened it yet because I'm just behind on Instagram messages, but somebody said something along the lines of, and I like can only see, like the brief,
first
the
part.
preview. Yeah. And she said, like, I just want to say you're such an inspiration to me with how you manage your food allergies. She was like, I have an autoimmune disorder, yada, yada, yada. I didn't really get to see the rest of it, but it's like, I just, how could I be an inspiration?
Really?
I'm allergic to things. Yeah. I don't see this as inspirational. I just see this as, honestly, I see this as a weakness, a chink in my armor. That's how I see this.
It's a
I see myself as,
half glass empty thing, because I mean you have something. Well, I mean, but do you to some degree, like thinking through her question, understand how you can inspire people with that, or do you really not understand how people see it that way?
I get it. I'm on the allergy subreddit, which is surprisingly not a very active subreddit. It's a small subset of people that are both on Reddit and have food allergies and want to join. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not a whole lot of good conversation going on there. Nothing like super. But some of these people that have food allergies is shit. I was going to say they don't leave their house, but neither do I really. But I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess if somebody wants to take inspiration from me I just think there are people that are doing bigger things than I am. And I know that doesn't disqualify what I am doing and the inspiration that they get from me. But I think like living with a lot of people have this, and so it's not like I'm not anything special. I'm just a guy who lifts a lot of weight a couple times a week. I go about my life. I build a business. I stay at home. I got my wife. I got my dog. I'm just a dude.
Yeah, but I think you just have something that puts the odds against you. And no matter what, you're like, I'm still going to get my protein. And I know like at this point, it's probably easier for you. And we can dive into that of like how you navigate. Someone did ask like how it affects your life and how you kind of navigate macros and stuff like that, or protein and all that. But I don't know. It's just like, even with the difficulties of the food that you're limited to, you just get it done. You know what I mean? You don't let it affect you, and you don't really talk about it on your stories a lot. So it's like you're, living your life even with it. So I don't know. I see it as very inspirational when so many other things keep people from doing things that they want to do,
Yeah.
So
I don't, right along with like the discipline point of me, I think maybe a borderline toxic trait of mine that I have is, what do you mean you can't do something? Or what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't like putting those labels on myself and I don't want anybody to put those labels on themselves. Like they can't do something. I said this on my story the other day. My mom, like 7 years ago or so, when I was trying to figure out my place in the world, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My mom set me up with this like career advisor or something like that. And she had this woman, in week 2 was like, what do you think you could be good at? What do you think you could do? And I said, I think I could do anything. I truly believe that. She said, you couldn't do anything. I said, anything. I said, if I wanted to be an NBA player, I could do that. It would take me time. I might not be the best in the NBA, but I could get into the NBA. I'm 5'8". I could get in the NBA. Mm-hmm. She said, no, you couldn't. I never spoke to her again after that.
Yeah.
I never want somebody to tell me that I can't do something. That makes me more angry than anything on the planet. It was when somebody tells me that either I can't do something or they can't do something. Why?
Yeah.
Maybe, you have to extend the timeline. But who cares? We have if we're lucky, we got 80 years. Yeah. That's a lot of freaking time. That's a lot of time.
Yeah. I see that. I see why you don't see it doesn't make sense to you. 'Cause you're like, well, of course I'm going to do it. Like, I'm never going to let something stop me from doing anything I want to do. Like, why would I let that stop me? But the reality is a lot of people let a lot of stuff, even stuff that isn't life or death situation of an allergy, People let a lot of things stop them from achieving their goals, and a lot of it's made up. It's not even
Yeah.
real. A lot of people make up fake scenarios because they don't want to do something. So,
And I get
the
that,
reality
and
is
I'm not gonna disqualify that just because like, oh, I'm Mr. Tough Guy. It's like I have not walked in anybody's shoes, so I will never disqualify what their struggles are because
right.
I have no idea what they've gone through, what their childhood was like, what their adulthood is like, what, if they have kids, if they have a stressful job, like I have no idea. So for me to say like you can, or I would never say like you cannot, somebody cannot do something, but I understand if they have those self-limiting beliefs on themselves.
Yeah, totally. Walk us through like what you eat in a day. Like, what is your kind of go-to of? Well, actually, let's pivot differently. Can you give us at least just a little peek at what the list of 70 items that you are not able? And I think let's walk into kind of like
Mm.
what your kind of normal day to day of what you eat is.
Yeah, so like some of the things that I can't have. Oh man, I should have pulled up a list for this, but it's like
We know onions, we know
obviously
walnuts,
all nuts, all
peanuts.
nuts,
Okay,
all nuts, like peanuts, walnuts, any tree nuts, pecans,
pine
almonds,
nut.
anything like that.
Okay,
Yeah, exactly. Anything like that. Sesame seeds is a big one that's pretty tough.
okay.
Recently, in the last like 2 months, the labeling requirements around sesame seeds changed. And to get around this, every bread and bun manufacturer, basically every single one, now says it contains sesame seed. It is
Oh,
very
so they're
frustrating. So
wow.
I have not eaten a burger bun in 2 months. I've stopped going to Culver's because it says that their buns now contain sesame, even though if you look at the top, there are
It's
no sesame
this,
seeds on the top.
and it's probably the same bun as it
And you just
was
it's
before.
probably the exact same bun, and
Yeah.
in all the grocery stores it's probably the exact same bread, but they changed like whoever the
Right.
US whatever,
Right.
changed, and so that's been really frustrating. And so I can only eat pretzel buns, which I love pretzel buns, so it's not like the end of the world, but like
Yeah.
if I go out to a friend's house and they're having a barbecue, I'm not going to take the chance because sesame seeds are
Right.
pretty bad. Like one sesame seed will mess me up bad. It'll
Yeah.
really mess me up bad. Okay, like coconut, chicken, turkey, tomato, avocado. Since are you familiar with oral allergy syndrome?
No.
It's like when if people are allergic to pollen or like seasonal allergies,
Mm-hmm.
those usually have a lot of crossover to different fruits. And so people might
Oh.
eat like an apple or banana or something like that. And if pollen is like high, it's like more pollen or something like that,
Okay.
you'll have a stronger reaction to it. So I
You're.
have pretty intense seasonal allergies.
Uh-huh.
And my doctor told me, my allergist as a kid, he said, we used to vacation in Mexico, my family. And he said you need to live in Mexico and vacation in Michigan because being in Michigan is horrible for you.
Because of
Um,
all the pollen.
so I have really bad seasonal allergies, ragweed, pollen, all that.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I can't eat many fruits and vegetables. So the vegetables that I can eat, like bell pepper, broccoli, that's about where the list ends almost.
You were
I
not
have to
joking.
spam those. I have to
Yeah,
spam those.
you were not joking when you said the list is really shorter of what you can. But I guess that kind of shows what you when you walk through a day. So it's like I'm guessing like apple, oranges, pineapple, banana, grapes, strawberries, like all
All
of
out.
that.
Yep, all out.
Is
Blueberries,
there
raspberry, all
any
out.
single fruit that you can have?
When during my last cut, I was for whatever reason I was able to have strawberries. I have no idea why, but
How
maybe
did
it's because of the season.
how did you
But I
figure that
ate
out
like
though?
one. I ate one strawberry. I took a bite, like a tiny little bite, and I was just like, fingers crossed, hope for the best.
You
It
must not
won't
have.
close my throat though. It won't
Okay,
close my throat.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So like the nuts are the ones that'll close my throat,
You would
whereas
never
like
experiment with those.
never under any
Never.
circumstance.
Yeah, never.
Never.
Okay, but
Um
fruit,
and
you could
but
experiment.
even like fruits, I don't like experimenting with them at
Right.
all
Yeah,
anymore.
but
Yeah,
you said full send
I
one day and you just went for it.
I was so hungry. I was so hungry in my last cut, or like, not the most recent one, but the one that where I got like crazy lean, like
Yeah, yeah.
last year. And so I was just eating like, I mean, it was like a pound and a half of strawberries per day that I was eating. It was so many strawberries, maybe 2 pounds per day. It was
Well, and
ridiculous.
then did the allergy come back because of that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it
yeah.
did. It did come back.
I think you need to,
Yeah.
when you discover you have a fruit, you need to be like, okay, everyone stay calm.
Chill,
I'm,
chill, chill.
yeah, just chill. I'm going to have a serving and then tomorrow I'll have a serving.
Yeah.
And then, who knows if that's what does it, but it's coincidental. So,
Apparently, so like when you cook, so I can have like an apple pie or something like that. So when you
mm,
cook a fruit, it changes like the protein structure or something like that.
yes.
So I guess you can like hypothetically, I could microwave an apple and then I could eat it. I've never tried it, but I guess that's like what I've heard.
Well, yeah. So another friend of mine, Paige, who's also my best friend, she
Yep.
has a really bad
Yep.
anaphylactic to all dairy. And
Loved
so
that also, by the way. Let me just plug that. I loved that also, but keep going. We'll gloss over it, but keep going.
also, what did I say?
She said she's also my best friend.
Because you're my best friend and she's my best friend. So I have two best friends that have anaphylactic allergies. It's just, how did
So
I come
cool.
upon, that's, yeah.
I
That's why I
know.
said
You're
also
so
best
lucky.
friend.
You're so lucky.
I know. And so it's weird though. In her family, they say like allergies is not genetic, but every firstborn female has the dairy allergy in her family. And yeah, weird, right? And so they tried to, like low dose her to dairy as a child. And part of doing that was boiling the milk.
Oh,
to make it
yeah.
less, because it, like you said, somehow breaks down the protein structure. So when you talked about that, I was like, oh, she had mentioned that. So there's got to be something they do in trying to dose people in low amounts to build up the allergy or whatever, is just by cooking things, because it breaks down structures in a way that you don't react as much or not entirely. So
There's there's some pretty good stuff coming in the allergy field right now.
yeah.
I follow like 2 allergists. There's one, dang, I don't remember their names. I wish I did, but there are 2 doctors that I follow that are really good on social media, that really give evidence-based information. But I mean, being in the nutrition world, I don't know about you, but for me, it's made me really jaded toward a lot of like information in general. Because when I see doctors saying nutritional information that is so now doctors are not formally educated on nutrition ad
Right.
nauseum, like the way that you and I have to be.
Right.
But when I do hear some doctors giving advice on nutrition and it's just so wrong and so misaligned with the current evidence-based practices, it's made me a little jaded toward a lot of that. But there are 2 doctors. Dr. Rubin, I think, is one of them. And the other one might be like Allergy Kid Doc or Allergy something like that. But anyway, if anybody's curious and listening to this, just send me a message on Instagram and I'll shoot their profiles your way.
Yeah. Walk us through a little bit of a day of like what you eat. Like what are your typical, maybe even a few options, like breakfast, I do this or that. Like what does your day look like as far as eating?
Breakfast, I usually do like a protein shake in my coffee and then a granola bar. Now there's only one granola bar that I can have. So when people think granola bars, they think like, okay, Chewy or something like that. Cascadian Farm chocolate chip is the only one I can have. For whatever reason, vanilla chip makes my lips bubble up and I can't iron out
what it is,
what the ingredient is. Yeah. So those are pretty good. Sometimes I'll have like a Pop-Tart, if I'm like bulking.
Wait, let me ask you real quick. Let me go.
I'll have oatmeal. Oatmeal is a good one for me. Oatmeal and like a protein powder.
Granola bars though, is like, are you saying that's the only one you can have because most of them have nuts in it? Is that why that's one of the only ones?
Yeah. When you look at an ingredient label, it's going to say like at the bottom, it's going to say made in a facility that processes peanuts.
Right.
If you go through a grocery store, you're going to see that on like everything. Okay. Yes, you're going to see that on so many things. So the made in a facility that processes peanuts is like the death of me, because there are certain foods, M&Ms, for example, because they're made in the same facility that peanut M&Ms are. I cannot have those made in a facility that processes peanuts, and it's just that's a phrase that is so annoying. You
need to get that tattooed somewhere.
Made in a facility.
Oh man, just to add light to the your life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You just
Yeah.
made it. Yeah,
I
just
know
right
this
there.
this episode has been such a like borderline a bummer, and it's like I don't know. I guess
It,
I don't
I mean, yeah, I guess for me, I'm like, you said that, I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of,
know.
this is interesting to me. I find this so fascinating. So it's been exciting for me, but for
Yeah,
you, like, you're hashing all these things. You're
it's
like, man,
hell.
yeah, sucks.
Yeah, I Maddie saw me crying and was like, "Are you okay? What is the podcast about?" And I was like, "It's the allergy episode." I said I knew this was going to be a tough one. I just have to get through it.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
yeah, we're almost done.
we're way past the worst of it though. Past
Yeah,
this is
true.
easy, smooth sailing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Oh,
Keep going
for
with breakfast.
some breakfast.
Oatmeal.
So
Yeah.
yeah, oatmeal. Especially when I need to get a little more fiber, when I know that my fiber's low, because fiber is kind of hard to come by for me, just because like fruits are
Veggies. Yeah.
basically completely out of the equation. Veggies, we do broccoli. I'm not kidding, pretty much every single night.
Yeah.
And most people would get sick of that. Well, I'm happy for you that you have the option to get sick of that. It must
Yeah.
be nice. It
Yeah.
must be nice. Try eating broccoli, 1 to 2 cups of broccoli every single night for dinner, and then talk to me about how sick of broccoli you are.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little sick of broccoli, but I'm a big boy, and I know I need to get fiber because it's good for me.
Yeah.
So oatmeal's one, that's good. I usually throw like a scoop of protein powder in that to make it like, protein oatmeal, whatever.
Yeah.
That's I would say those are my typical breakfast. For lunch, so lunch I will usually it's like some kind of leftovers, and leftovers for us, I'll say our protein groups are salmon, steak, ground beef. I feel like there's got to be more, but I'm like really hitting a wall. Shrimp sometimes, but shrimp is like actually low key pretty pricey.
You can't do turkey, right?
Nope.
And any birds? Can you eat birds? Period. Like quail, ostrich. Like I know those are like far out there, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I just can't imagine like firing up the Barbie out back and throwing an ostrich steak on.
There was a restaurant here in Dallas that had an ostrich burger for a time, and so it was fantastic. They took it off the menu. I don't know if there was an issue with stuff, but I don't know. I didn't know if that's available for to purchase as an ostrich burger somewhere. So quail eggs.
I've never had ostrich.
No quail, but that's more of a southern thing.
I feel like ostrich and quail I probably could have, to be honest, but now that you mention it, I don't know. And to be honest, there is no shot that I would
try it.
No.
I wouldn't either.
Why would I try new foods? Well, the kind of a bummer, but like when my friends like invite me out to dinner when my friends like invite me out to dinner or like out to a bar, let me just say that they don't really invite me out anymore. One, I've isolated myself to a different town. But even back like, in college or when we were in the same town, they just stopped inviting me out because I always said like, I'd love to, but
I can't. Yeah.
I can't, and, when like I travel, luckily Maddie's so good about this. And like I've apologized to her many times for taking food away from her, but essentially, because although she still will like go out, order chicken tenders, stuff like that. She has not eaten peanut butter since we've been together. She has not eaten any nuts since we've been together. She hasn't. So she's made those sacrifices for me, to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah.
She has completely tailored her diet and her cooking to accommodate me. We've had to cut out foods. We've had to experiment. She's been through the ringer with me. And like, I mean, she's my life partner. So
yeah.
And so for dinner, those are some of the proteins that we eat. And then we always match that with broccoli. And we always mix it up with either rice, pasta, or potatoes. And so like we have different combinations of those things. Like for salmon, maybe we do like grilled or air fried salmon with rice and broccoli, or maybe it's pasta and broccoli. Or maybe we do like last night we had salmon bites where she throws like a soy sauce and brown sugar glaze over a little like cubed salmon, throws in the air fryer. And then we do like that with rice and broccoli. Again, it's like, it's the same stuff. But I will say that that's how it should be for pretty much everybody. You find a few proteins you enjoy, you find a few carb sources you enjoy, you find a few veggie sources you enjoy, and then you just mix and match as you go. Yeah, you just create these staples and you just cycle them in and out as necessary.
Yeah. I mean, if we were going to bring a little light to the situation, because I know you're feeling kind of bummed on this episode, but it's like, I have like 3 breakfasts I rotate through. I have like 2 lunches I rotate through. And we have like 4 dinners we rotate through all the time. And every once in a while we get, ooh, that looks good on Instagram. And we try something new, but we pretty much stick to the same like 10 meals for like 2 years, to be honest. So it's just like, but
Yeah.
that's what's
Right.
easy. That's what's doable. We hit our protein. We enjoy the food. So, you know, you're a real
It's not
boy,
like I'm
you
any
know?
different. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a real boy.
You're a real
I'm not
boy.
Pinocchio, or maybe I am Pinocchio. I don't
Well,
know.
so it's not too off. I mean, like you said, it more is yours just like if there is something you're getting bored of, like you don't have as much freedom to really just okay, broccoli or bell peppers, like that's my options,
Yeah.
So, wait, okay,
Yeah.
you said you're allergic to tomatoes. Can you have ketchup?
Yes. So and even cooked tomatoes, like
Okay,
spaghetti with like
cool.
little chunks of tomatoes because it's been cooked. I can have that all good.
A lot of
Like
vegetables, if you just
marinara
cook them.
sauce in general. Yup.
If you were like to cook
Yes.
zucchini, you
Yes.
could eat zucchini.
To be honest, Maddie's asked me that question, and I'm so scared to try it that we haven't.
Okay, okay,
It's
but
just a lot of fear around food.
yeah, no, I mean,
Just
it makes, if I was in your shoes, like it makes complete sense. You're just like, why cook zucchini to see if I can eat it when I can just have broccoli and it's safe and I'm fine with eating broccoli? Like, why
that's
would you take
literally
that?
it.
It's not like zucchini. Zucchini is not that amazing anyways. It's pretty much just broccoli in a different form. Like, like there's really not, and I'm not someone who loves vegetables, but there's not really that many vegetables I'd be like, oh my gosh, if you ever get the courage, you have to try to eat this vegetable. They all kind of taste like broccoli to me, So
Yeah.
if that makes you feel any better, but it's just,
It's not that big of a deal.
I
And
think,
so like
okay.
fat loss phases for me, I'd say are easier than for other people because
Yeah.
like I'm not there are no temptations for me to go out to this restaurant. It's not like, oh, I have a craving for X, Y, and Z, because it's like I'm just not gonna that's a risk.
Yeah.
It's like every single time I go to a restaurant that I'm unfamiliar with,
Yeah.
which is the majority of them, I go to Chipotle, Qdoba, and Jimmy John's,
I was
and then
about
the
to ask
fast
you.
food places,
Taco Bell.
McDonald's, Taco Bell. Those are safe bets for me. So when I'm traveling, we will make sure that either I'm close to a McDonald's or a Chipotle,
Yeah.
or we have a kitchen that we stay in. So we stay in a lot of Airbnbs
Right.
or hotels with kitchens in them. We will grocery shop every single time. It's just easier that way. There was
Yeah.
one time before I knew that I was allergic to onions. And again, that was a bad one. We had like third row seats to Sebastian Maniscalco in Denver.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we should play it safe. Let me get a burger. I get a burger. There's onion on it. I eat it. Didn't know I was allergic to onion. Felt fucking horrible. Couldn't go see Sebastian Maniscalco. We're out like $800 on tickets.
Yeah.
And that was back before we had money. And that was like a really big deal. That was our
that was a big spend. That was like a big trip for you.
It was a big it was a big
trip.
deal to be able to save up that much. And it was so
yeah
that's probably the other thing
that's probably the other thing that's hard too, is like it's not like you just have a set allergy. It's just like you're discovering allergies almost adapting. as you're living life. You're just discovering more and more things, and some come and go, and that's probably what's hard also about eating. It's like if you went, I mean, I still understand your food anxiety with going out to eat, but it's like if you knew like nuts, this, like staple, it's always been that way. Cool. But like all of a sudden you get a burger that used to be safe and all of a sudden it's not safe. So
yeah, I went to Nashville like 4 weeks ago with Maddie and a buddy. And, we go into this restaurant and I'm looking at the menu and they have peanuts, like, I don't even, peanut pesto or something like that on the menu. And it's like, I'm thinking like, well, I've worked in a kitchen before for a year. I worked in a kitchen. I know how it can, like, just things can happen. Things, they're wearing gloves and stuff, but like you wipe a little bit off this edge to make it a cleaner bowl. You do this, you do that. And it's like, you just don't know what cross-contamination there is going on. And I hate to say it, but I'm not very comfortable telling people, hey, I have this laundry list of allergies, please. And I know that any restaurant would be so happy to like make sure. Yeah,
that's the other thing I want to go
You're
into.
Not wrong there.
I am. Yeah, that's what I want to go into. They was like, this is a perfect transition because I think we should talk about this. So because it's like I want people to leave with this, but keep going. Anyways, you would tell a restaurant, but you don't want to.
So it's just like I don't feel like being a burden. I know it's not a burden. I know I'm going to get messages about this. Please don't message me about this. But it's like if every time you went to a restaurant, you were playing Russian roulette. Would you go to that restaurant?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Like seriously, imagine having a revolver. There's 6 rounds in the chamber. You put one in.
Yeah.
Spin it, load it.
Yeah.
Put it to your head. Are you gonna pull? That's what it's like going to a restaurant and eating for me. I'm not doing it. Yeah. And so people ask me to go out to restaurants. It's like now my friends know. Like, nope.
Yeah.
But
again, if you had like one, a laundry list, and two, new, it wouldn't be like a revolver and you spinning it, but it is. It's literally a gambling process, especially with how many you have. It just heightens the risk for you. So how
Yeah.
severe.
Yep.
But I want to talk about the restaurant stuff because again, my relationship with Paige has really opened up my eyes to allergies and how people just,
Mm.
lack of a better way of saying it, don't give a shit. Like when you go
Yeah.
to a restaurant. And there have been so many
They
times that I've
think
been,
like, oh, bellyache. They think like,
yeah, they
oh,
think
it'll be.
like for her, they think like lactose intolerance. And she even goes,
That's a big one. Yeah.
she goes to the waitress comes over. First of all, let's hope they understand what this even means. And she goes, I have a deathly anaphylactic allergy to dairy. Can you make sure all my food is prepped with fresh knives and utensils in this is a separate area? They're like, oh
Good
yeah,
for
sure.
her.
She came, the last time she came, she had a reaction because we went to and she really likes going to fancier restaurants because fancier restaurants tend to actually really know what you're talking about and actually know. So we went to a restaurant. The guy mixed it up with gluten. He thought she said, I had a gluten allergy. She said dairy. He brought something over and she starts eating it. And she goes, and when she does that little thing with her lips, I'm like, she's feeling her tongue.
I know exactly what she's talking about.
And she's like, something's off on here. And so she calls the waiter over and she's like, she points to the rice and she goes, does this have dairy in it? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, I can't have dairy. And so she immediately opens up her thing, grabs, 2 or 3 Benadryl, pops them. She's like, I'm done for the rest of the night. She's like, just like what you said, you feel terrible. How Benadryl makes her feel. She hates it. She does not want to have to take it. Then she's out for the rest of the night. It ruins the rest of everything. And then
it's also like this paralyzing anxiety that whole time of like, I don't know if this is going to get better or worse. And it's like so hard self-monitoring those symptoms. So like, I totally have a lot of sympathy.
And then he brought something later and we ordered calamari, which you can have calamari. And he brought it not fried. And so we're just like, why would he bring her a plate of rice with cream in it, but then bring us non-fried calamari when we wanted regular calamari? Because we realized he thought gluten because there's gluten in the fry of the breading. And we're like, how did he mixed it up? And so it's just like simple things like that where like people will mix it up or like people, again, don't take you seriously and don't use a fresh knife or don't combine it. Or the amount of times people think that mayo is dairy based. Mayo is made of eggs. The amount of times she'll be like, hey, is there dairy in this? They're like, yeah, there's mayo. She goes, I can have eggs. They're like, yeah, but there's mayo in it. She goes, mayo is made of eggs. They're like, yeah, but it's mayo. And she's like, there's not dairy in mayo. Like she has to repeat it so many times. And so for her, it's just that one allergy. And so her explaining that, it's like, I can't imagine to the degree that you would have to go through and stuff like that. So coming into this episode, yeah, right. Why even bother with that? And so for her, it's just like, it's really opened my eyes to where people just don't take allergies seriously when you go out. And I've experienced it so many times with her. And gosh, I remember the few times I was around her, I'm so aware of what her allergy is, but there have been times where I've screwed up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to wipe off the knife. You know what I mean? And then she had a reaction. Or like one time I had a whey protein shake.
Oh yeah.
And, shook it up, drank it, everything, was done drinking it. So I rinsed it out and drank water out of it. And she took a sip, the damn cup, right? Took a sip. And then she goes,
water cup.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
And then she goes with her lips again. And I'm like, she goes, this is water, right? I was like, yeah. She goes, did you have something in here before? I was like, yeah, I had a whey protein. And we had just gone over to a friend's house for a pool day. She popped like 2 Benadryl. And she's like, I'm done. Like, she was just really out of it for the rest of the day. And she's like, man, seeing her go through that, it brings a light to, again, just how people are treated with allergies in like public, around. And that's why I always ask, like, do you hate being asked about this? Because she gets asked about all the time. And then when you go out and the food anxiety. And so, it's just very interesting to learn about like how serious. So if you're like a waiter or waitress listening to this, or you have someone like advocate for those people, because like, it's just people don't take it seriously at all, which is very, very sad. So
growing up, it was being on planes was very difficult when they were giving out free peanuts for a long time. My oldest sister almost got into a fist fight with a stewardess.
Oh my gosh.
And like, not even just once, like many times. My mom was writing letters to like, to Delta.
That's why they don't have peanuts on planes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a while it was a pretty big deal. And then they made this. They made the rule that, okay, 3 rows in front, 3 rows in back. Okay, well, when your allergy is airborne, and you start like, you can't breathe when you are inhaling it, it's like,
I was in the car.
There were some bad times.
Yeah, I was in the car with Paige one time, and I like opened like yogurt or something. And
Hmm.
I'm just eating. I'm like, it's in a container. Like it's fine. Like she didn't say I couldn't open it or whatever. I open it, she starts sneezing just uncontrollably. And then, or was
Yeah.
it was a yogurt or a protein bar? I think she didn't realize what I was opening. I think it was a protein bar. And so the whey got in the air and you're in a confined car space. She
Yep.
starts sneezing uncontrollably. And she goes like, did you just open a protein bar? And I was like, yeah. She says, we need to roll down the windows. And she had to I'm like, and I'm going to be so careful around people, but I just like, you just don't think about it. And so she's really educated me. Like she's shown me labels and been like, yes, this says this right here, but technically it still has dairy in it because like, for example, vegan products, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it doesn't have dairy. It has to say dairy free for it to not actually have dairy, but it says vegan. There's an ingredient that you can put like technically for something to be vegan, it has to have less than like 0.5% of dairy in it or something, or like 0.2% or like 2% has to be less than 2% dairy product in it. So even if it says vegan doesn't mean that it doesn't have dairy in it. So she still has to read the label and she'll look for ingredients where it doesn't even say dairy. It's like cocoa extract. And she's like, cocoa powder I can have, but cocoa extract actually still has dairy in it. So it's just like, when I look at labels now, like knowing some of your allergies before even this episode, like I look at things, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I just don't know. And it just, brings awareness and I don't know, just very, very interesting.
Any protein bars, they're all made in a facility processed peanuts. So like
yours now, every time I see made in a facility contains or whatever, I will just be like, I will never see that label the same again. It's just like, wow, there's just, I don't know. I have dealt with allergies for a little bit of my life. I could talk about.
What did you have to deal with?
I actually was allergic to sugar. And so I couldn't have anything. Now it wasn't anaphylactic. It was, I got really, really sick if I had sugar, eggs, and something else. I forgot what it was. And I would get really, really sick to the point where I'd be like coughing and sneezing. I remember one night I was coughing so much that I threw up. Like I was just from the allergy. So it's not anaphylactic, but we got an allergist. That's a whole nother story. I don't have those allergies anymore, but sugar, that made me realize how much like,
oh yeah, I remember you told me about that.
Yeah. I got something called an EPD shot and apparently like they're not legal here in the States anymore. And I had this whole conspiracy that like, the allergy industry is like $1 billion industry. And there were only 3 doctors at the time that did this type of thing that I did, these shots that I took. There's only 3 people in the whole United States that did it. And now they're like banned and they're allowed, but you can go to like Europe and get it done still. So I have this whole theory. Anyway, so I got those shots. I no longer have those allergies anymore. But yeah, I mean, it was just like heartbreaking as a kid when my mom's like reading, can't have this, can't have this. And you realize like there's literally sugar in every single product you can possibly think of. So my mom made a lot of homemade stuff growing up, which bless her for doing that. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she had more of the time than obviously like your parents did. But yeah, so that's a little experience, but again, so different than anaphylactic. World of a difference. So, but I thought I'd pop that in there to be relatable.
That was great. No, it's nice to be relatable.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's the last question I kind of had that I want to talk about was, is there anything you wish other people knew just about your life with allergies? Anything you want to leave people with to take away?
Do not pity me.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was going to be your go-to. Yeah.
Don't pity me. I don't know. It's like, I appreciate people having empathy for me and maybe sympathy, but I don't want you to think of like, oh, he's this charity case that I need to like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think anyone does.
I don't think anyone does. I just, I hate, I'm a tough guy. I'm a tough man, and I don't like feeling like weak. Man. And so, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I guess, is there anything that I'd want people to know? I feel like this is really my opportunity to be an advocate for food allergies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have any like revelation. I guess. I
think if anyone expresses to you to have a food allergy, take it seriously.
Yeah. What I was going to say is I hope that if somebody listened to the middle of this and saw how much pain that this has caused me, I hope that at least brings a little bit more awareness to the people that have food allergies and understand what they are going through.
Totally.
And I hope that you are more aware and more careful because you can kill somebody very easily. I mean, you can actually kill somebody or you can maim them so badly that they will be messed up for the rest of their lives. And that, unfortunately, I mean, to a degree, mentally, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
And it was going to happen no matter what. It probably was going to happen no matter what. You know what I mean?
You're saying at some point, like just to have a really bad experience, you're saying, or
I think anybody who has severe food allergies
is going to have,
it would be a momentous, like just an incredible amount of luck to not have at least one really bad experience.
Yeah.
I've had a couple and I still feel like I'm lucky because I made it through all of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone feels bad for you or feels that you're a charity case. I think people are just like, wow, like you've really opened a lot of people's eyes to the reality of the situation and other people with allergies. And I think it's a whole nother side that we got to see to you that I don't think anyone's really seen before. And I don't know, I just think it makes you more human and that's a good thing. So
yeah, I feel that. All right. Well, thanks for the interview.
He's over this episode, guys. If you can't tell. Okay, well, thanks guys for joining.
We're gonna go through your trauma next. I'm gonna dig deep and figure out.
I'm an open book. I'll go for it. I'll go through it. Well, thanks guys for joining this podcast. Thanks Alex for being a good sport and doing this as much as I've really pushed Alex a lot, and I could feel that he didn't want to do it, but now I understand the degree of why he didn't because it's a lot. So thank you for being a good sport. We will catch you guys on the next one, and it'll be about something nutrition and training.
It's be like fat loss and lifting and easy peasy.
Maybe we could talk about vending machines again, just like really get into statistics.
That was a good one.
Stuff. So,
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.
We'll see you. Shark attacks.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
All right. Take care.